Well, hello and welcome. Welcome to Oz by Drone. I'm Greg, and this is the Oz by Drone show. This is the January edition where we don't do the same things that we normally do. We're not doing the drone news. We're just having some fun, nice and laid back so that I don't have to do so much work to put it all together. It's just a bit of fun, relaxation and holiday time. Today we've got an open panel where everyone and anyone who wants to join can come in and join the show and participate. I've pasted the link into the chat. So do click on that link if you'd like to come say hello, ask a question, talk about what you've been doing over the Christmas break, or just anything at all. Come say hi and have some fun. And with that, I've got my January special edition co-host, Lloyd. G'day, Lloyd. How you doing? Can you bring yourself onto the screen? There we go.
Turn on the mic. Yeah, I'm doing good. I had to go back. You heard before, you was listening and heard my wife talking to the dog. She was, oh, you couldn't? Well, she was running back and forth from the office back to the bedroom, running around, whining because she expects me to be in there with Judy, and so I had to go back in there, put her back up in bed, you know. But,
well, you got to look after these things.
Yeah, they're saying they can't hear me.
I can hear you. You are a little bit low, but you're there.
All right. Is that better?
Yeah.
Hang on a second.
You've never sounded better, Lloyd.
Don't bite me. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to start the show out that way.
Anyway, so let's talk about a few bits and pieces. What's been happening now? Of course, there's all of the stuff happening in the good old US of A, and we can chat about that a lot. But I don't want to start with that because otherwise the show will never get anywhere very quickly. Yeah. So let's talk about a couple of other things that I've been doing this week, and I'm doing show and tell. Now,
okay.
Last week I showed you my Raspberry Pi. This week I'm showing you. Let me turn it right way up. It's a patch panel, and for those who've worked in the computer industry, nothing special, nothing spectacular until you look at the back and you see that there are all sockets at the back as well, and it's a pass-through patch panel. And I saw this on someone's stream that I was watching myself and found it interesting because, I've got a whole bunch of gear in my home network that's got cables going everywhere, plugged directly into the switch, and it's a bit of a mess. I've got a patch panel sitting there, but I don't use it because I'm too lazy to go and punch down all of the cables where they're coming from onto the patch panel.
Right.
But instead of worrying about that kind of stuff, just plug it in the back, use your existing cable, plug it in the back, and then you can have nice, neat patch leads going from the patch panel to your switch. The reason for doing that, if something goes wrong with your switch and you want to pull it out, you want to do maintenance on it, it's really easy to pull it out. You've just got socket 1 to 1, 2 to 2, all the way across.
Oh, that
just makes it really, really easy.
Yeah.
And I was surprised at the price of it. It's I found that one on AliExpress for $50.
Oh,
so
that's not bad. It's not bad.
I know. I was pretty amazed. So home networking tip of the day, patch panel that's back-to-back female cables, or sockets I should say, and you can just plug it in. Very nice.
Cool. Excellent, yeah.
Now, again, just a reminder, anyone is welcome to come and join on the panel today, I 100% wholeheartedly extend
put
that
the-
invitation.
put the
Let
link
me,
in the
you
chat,
just put it back
so.
in there.
Yeah.
So, yes, Jody, I sent one along me too. Okay. So that's number one topic of the day. Number two topic of the day, I'm going to share, like I'm a computer guy, and I'm going to, did it take 2 months to get to you? No, it only took about 2 weeks, which was not bad. So I'm going to quickly put something on the screen, and very relaxed and unprepared this stuff today, so my apologies about that.
Want me to put you on full screen?
It'll take me a moment more.
Oh, okay. All right. So
There we go.
turn this down just a little. There we go.
So when I'm not doing this kind of stuff, I want to share the other stuff that I do out of interest, and a little bit of shameless plug advertising kind of stuff.
Right.
This is a website of some things that I do when I'm not doing YouTube. It's called Compass Networks. And just see, yep, it is full screen. So if you've got your own web server, and this is something that I got into a long time ago, and you want to go and build your own web server, this is the way to do it. So Blue Onyx is a piece of software that's a Linux web email and hosting control panel system. So blueonyx.it, I'll type that link in the system in a couple of minutes. Blue Onyx is the operating system, and once you've got your own web server and you want to put something on it, well, the question is, how do you do that? And this is what I do when I'm not doing YouTube-y stuff. Aardvark, PHP, top sites, a guest book, a poll system, and a calendar. Contao, content management, Concrete, CMS Made Simple, and all sorts of other applications that make it really easy for you to point and click and install web applications on a server without having to be a geek. For those who know me well enough, know that I definitely am a geek.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to go and do your own websites and stuff, you can do that through many of the existing commercial offerings out there.
Right.
But by the same token, you can throw this piece of software in your home and make your own website, chuck it up on there, play with it, practice with it, do whatever you want with it. You can put it in a data center. There are people that host that. And in fact, some of the people that use my software have got hundreds or even thousands of websites for other people, and they're actually web hosting providers themselves.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
and in fact, you're a customer, aren't you, Grumps?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I am. Come to think of it, I forgot. www.1.vmac.info.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Grumps has got a website that is tailored to people who want to do simulation flying. And yeah, it's been around for some time.
Yeah, I've actually had the original. I started in 1997. And
That wasn't that back before the internet existed? No.
almost.
Yeah.
That's back when you had to build a website right in HTML.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a good. And Grant, who's here, Mr. Stay Drunk, he and I have been doing this for a lot of years, and still have a few of the friends that back in the BBS days, almost did the first the first VMAC website back in, I think it was December of '97 is when I put it up. And,
Okay.
And it's a virtual military airlift command. It's actually the Virtual Military Airlift Command, or VMAC. And, it's for guys that fly Microsoft Flight Simulator. And You know,
Originally Microsoft, but then you started using other SIMs
yeah,
as
we
well.
started doing other things. We started we branched off for that, and we started doing first person shooters. You know, uh, that spinoff was the Charlie Foxtrot Company, CFC for short, and Judy was actually the boss of CFC, and because she was actually the best shooter we had. Hang on a second.
You know, while you're just doing that, XPlane drone shots, yes, XPlane is supported on the platform, so you can go live fly and have people doing tower control while you're
Yeah,
doing your
X-Plane.
XPlane flights. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically the way it's set up now. It uses a PHP VMS, which is a program that it helps in. Well, it's all built on PHP now, and it's a virtual airline virtual maintenance server, or a
Yeah.
virtual maintenance system, which basically allows you to you can file your flight reports. You can if you want to get into the detail, you can set it up so nobody can fly anything but a Cessna until they receive so many hours, and then they automatically get bumped up from a single engine to a twin engine, and from there just keep on going. So, you know, me, I just started out with the heavies. We started out with the C5, and then went with the C17s, and we've already got it populated with I don't know, hundreds of airports, probably thousands, because when we rebuilt it using the PHP and the PHP VMS to be exact, we had to go in and populate all of our airports, and we have a lot of guys that retired Navy and retired Air Force that flew with us, and we went and put in every naval air station, Air Force base that was active, and then started adding in the civilian airports. So, and we also, like I said, it was at one time we were really a big active group, and I'm still the original. I'm probably the last of the virtual airline original owners that still run a site. A lot of them have sold off and had new people come in, but I'm still
there, ticking along and having fun with it.
Yeah, that's it.
Let's just have a review of some of the things I'm seeing in the chat. Thunderbird 6 Gold Coast BBS in the 80s. Now, Thunderbird, do you remember PC Magazine in Australia? Australian Personal Computer it was called, APC. And Thunderbird, in that magazine there was this thing called the Australian BBS listing. Do you remember that? And if you do, then you might remember Rodney Creer was the guy who created the Australian BBS listing. And I used to run that for New South Wales. And my bulletin board back then was called 2000 and Beyond. But then I got to the year 2000 and had to have a name change because it kind of didn't work anymore. And then changed it to number 1, the #1 BBS. And yeah, that was where my bulletin board days started. As a pimple-faced teenager having 40 modems and phone lines in my family room at home, employing my parents to do credit card transactions.
Well, of course.
As you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were doing that
And
as
then,
a teenager, and I was already raising teenagers by then.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, I know I'm old.
And out of that grew an internet company that I later sold. So those were the days. FidoNet 935. My FidoNet was 3:712/513. Those were the days. Try BBS and Wildcat. I started on TBBS on a CPM system that was a home-built machine, Z80 machine, and then went from that to Quick BBS, and then went from that to remote access, and then came back to TBBS on x86 hardware and ran the multi-line on that one. But it was only a single line when I started on a 300 baud modem. Those were the days. 300 bits per second, not kilobits, bits.
Yeah, just bits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Again, anyone who's interested in having a chinwag about some of the stuff here, jump into the chat room or into the studio. You're welcome to come in and have a chinwag about some of the old days of running bulletin boards and internet companies. Those were interesting days.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's move on just for a little while. Still tech focused and staying away from the politics just for a little bit longer. Sharing with those people who might use Dronebook to have a look at some of the drone news. It's been up and down a little bit for the last few days. I'm in the middle of doing server migration. So if you can imagine, in fact, let me show you one more website. I'll put this one up by doing that and that. So as well as doing my own Blue Onyx and then having our own apps on top of that, we've got a layer above that, which is kind of like a competitor to VMware, but a lot cheaper for people who want to do some virtualization, but it is targeted for someone who wants to put it in a data center, not to have it in your home. So that's a venture, and the dude that I do a lot of my, I partner with this guy in Colombia called Michael Storber, and he does a lot of the Blue Onyx stuff, and he created a venture, and I now sell his products and he sells mine. Originally we were competitors, but at some later stage we decided, hey, rather than competing, since we've got parallel products, why don't we cut the parallel products? He had his own anti-spam product, I had mine, and we killed one. And then antivirus, we both had our own competing products, we killed one. And eventually we've got this one group that we sell each other's products. But Aventurin is, like I said, a competitor to VMware, but based on open source components. It's an interesting little product.
Yeah.
But where the story was going with that is that the old version of Aventurin was based on an older version of CentOS underlying the operating system, and I had to upgrade that over the last few days. And that's what I've been doing, upgrading virtualization and moving servers around from one place to another. Didn't quite go as planned. The people in the data center where they're spinning up the new hardware for me, they did an install and they did it on their own IP address, and then they changed the IP address to the one I asked for. Pretty straight ahead. Everyone would understand that. And they, being good administrators, they made a backup copy of the file before they made the change. Sounds like a good idea.
Of course.
And then the operating system saw two files, the backup and the real one, both relating to the same Ethernet interface with different IP addresses, and it was trying to ping those IP addresses to confirm that the interface was up. So I've spent a day and a half troubleshooting why on earth these interfaces were going up and down because the operating system thought it wasn't there. But anyway.
Right. Yeah. That's, when you, this simple stuff seems like it's always the hardest to accomplish, Something is so straightforward and just like, okay, it's just this, and this, I thought you were going to say that. I was scared you were going to say, well, it saw you had two different copies, so it went ahead and deleted one thinking it was a hacked file. And then it was the wrong one because, which that happens,
Yeah. But long story short, it was the backup that killed the server.
It was the backup that killed the server because it was running a different IP. And the software was saying, this doesn't make sense. They're trying to redirect or something. Yeah.
So that was all I wanted to say about some of that. I'm still fighting getting NFS working for those who are geeks and know about network file services. That's the other bit that's still outstanding. All this tech talk is getting me excited. Are you allowed to smoke after tech talk?
Absolutely. If that's what you want to do, you can.
But hang on, no. When you're doing tech talk, you can't let the magic smoke get out.
Oh, yeah.
If the magic smoke gets out, it's broken.
Yeah, that's true.
And Thunderbird also said Netcom supplied Trailblazer 9600 board modems to sysops at $1,000. Yeah, I remember those days. I had I was beta testing for Netcom, and it was an E5 modem. Those were the days as well. There was one or two other. Greg,
Zebmeat says he has a bunch of short stories he wrote using WordPerfect on CPM Carol. And any way to convert those files into something readable?
Probably.
Well, I was hoping you would be able to say yes, and here's what
I won't say definitively yes, but you know, at the end of the day, the characters are text, ASCII characters inside the file. It's just the presentation layer that would be a little bit not quite so logical. And Thunderbird saying I was running the latest equipment, 386, 2 floppy drives with 600 meg external CD-ROM. Let me go back to my first BBS. It was a 10 meg hard drive, and it had an 8-inch floppy drive. So those were the old days. I was going to bring up one more thing. Let's talk about drones and live streaming just for a couple of minutes, which is go live. And I'll send this to the screen as well.
T-Bird says he still has that modem.
There you go.
Somewhere over in the ethos, I still have a let's see, where are you? There we go. Solo layout. I still have my zip drive and a couple of the zip cartridges.
Mm-hmm.
And they
as you
look
do.
like new.
Yeah. So this is something new that I've created. The website is golive.dronebook.org. And anyone who's got a YouTube channel of their own, I encourage you to log in, create an account, do all of the magic. And then over here, this is where you can create your own channel details. So the name of the channel, the URL of the channel, and a brief blurb about what your channel's about. And then once you've finished with that, there's a second section which is a schedule. So create a schedule record which says the AusByDrone live show is on a Saturday, and the time needs to be in UTC time. So both the date and time need to be in UTC time, GMT +0. And once you've done that, I eventually intend to send out, you know how YouTube used to send out reminders about what shows are coming up and put that all in a schedule?
Right.
So if you're doing a weekly live stream, put it in this database. And the intent is to go and send that out and build up, you know, a better way to help promote each other's channels. So, yeah, that'd be really good.
And
anyone else who's a live streamer.
It does need to be in UTC. So you either have to use a calculator or you have to have Greg figure it out for you and tell you how to put it in there. Which is what I did.
Yeah. And by the way, even if you're not a live streamer, you're more than welcome to still list your channel in the channel section without the schedule bit, and populate this database that will turn into kind of like the BBS listing of years gone by. 400 AGL. You should put your channel in there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, I've got to the 25-minute mark in the show, and I've finished with kind of the tech stuff that I've been playing with this week. So let's finally get to it. Turn it into a little bit of a oh my god moment. about what's been happening over there. I mean, I have a look at some of the outcomes, regardless of your point of view. Everyone would agree, I think, that all of the politicians, regardless of which side they're on, have the best of intentions and want to do the right thing by the country. Everyone would agree with that.
Not in America.
This is the thing. They believe that, regardless of what you.
Oh, the politicians believe that
themselves.
Yeah,
they
all
themselves
agree that the politicians believe that.
Right.
Yeah.
So they all want to do something that's good for the country. So they've all got motivations that are to try and create a good country. You don't. I see.
No.
I see 400 AGL saying strongly disagree.
Yeah. No, I would.
I mean, the alternative is that they've got a motivation to deliberately screw up the country, or they've got a motivation to personally profit from it. I don't think any of them.
That's more the truth.
Yeah, I know. I know there is a side undercurrent or undertone.
Yeah. Let me give you an example of something I heard about a week and a half ago. Of course, you know, I am conservative. I'm not hiding that. I don't agree that I don't agree with the violence that happened on any side. I don't agree with any of it. You know, whether it was happening in Portland or whether it's happening in Washington D.C.
How do you say that again? Say that name again. What DC?
Washington. I know what you. Washington. Yeah. In
Washington
D.C. Anyways.
Yeah.
You know, our Capitol building should be treated better than that. End of conversation. Here's a little side note. At 2:00 in the morning, you know, Wednesday. Anyways, while they were doing the final thing, a few of the congressmen got into fisticuffs down there themselves from both sides. So, yeah, of course, you've seen that in your parliament. So, but it's. I don't agree with any of that. But I listened to. I was listening to they were a stand-in host for one of the prevalent talk show people of the conservative talk show ticket. And they had a person on that was, it's fixing to get fired up here, I know. So, Mel, remember to try and keep it, because this isn't our show. But, you know.
Oh, no, is Mel coming in?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah. Well, let me finish my thought here, and then
I'll let you finish, and I've got one quick thought to add as well.
Okay. All right. But this person, they were a call-in guest, is because of a radio talk show, and this person was a self-proclaimed socialist liberal, and they went down. He said, this person says, I hate your ideology so much. I would rather destroy the country and myself than let your ideology succeed. Says, we have the courts, we have the media, we have the voting machines. You think you'll take it over in 2 years? We'll still have the courts, we'll still have the media, we'll still have the voting machines. And then we will start we will then push for a constitutional amendment to extend the presidency for more than 2 terms. Now, I can say that this person's interview can be heard, and even if it is nothing more than just a bunch of BS, just the thought of it was very chilling. And if you go to a person, the co-host or the host of that show, it goes by their YouTube channel is Rose Unplugged, and you can hear the several parts of this interview and what this person talked about. And you know, they said, you've lost, you didn't hear, you guys didn't keep your eye on the ball. And we were able to, we infiltrated the courts, we've infiltrated the media, and we have the voting systems in place. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. The fact that there is somebody out there that thinks that about this country, it's scary. And there's just as many, there are some crazies on the far right that are just as bad, and I don't hold to any of them, but that's my thought of the way I look at it, you know, and sorry you feel that way, Mike, but you know, let's see.
I'm not. Yeah, just on that topic, I'm not going to go and entertain positive or negative comments about either candidate. I don't want to go there. That's, I think, not where I
allowed that to go through, but I carefully decided whether or not to block it or allow it.
Yeah. Let me just add something to the whole.
And then I'll answer something to Mike says there.
Yeah. If you want to be conciliatory in the way the country goes forward, rather than to continue to be divisive, how do you do that? Now, if you got to the point where there's Mike, I'm talking not about individual people. I'm talking about the overall how to fix it. And let me say this, right? If both sides realize that there is a problem, regardless of your politics, and both sides, regardless of what you believe, don't want bad outcomes for the country. If you agree to that, right, you must agree to that. Then you say, how do you actually fix it? And the outcome in Congress, I think personally, was not the best way forward. I was listening to that guy. I mentioned him yesterday to you, Lloyd. What was his name? Ted Cruz. And he was looking at how do we make it better without getting into the politics of the individual people. And yes, he is a conservative, but let me pretend I was in there at the moment. If I was a congressman, I would stand up and say, hey, regardless of your politics, we've got a problem and the country is divided. So instead of ruling in favor of one side or the other, why don't we rule in favor of the fact that we have something that is not universally accepted? And if it's not universally accepted, it will continue to be divisive. So for the 5 or so states where people said there's a problem, hold a second poll in those states only, using the existing accepted roles that were in there at the time. And yes, you can debate till the cows come home about were the roles, electoral roles, valid or whatever. That's a separate topic. But rerun the poll again, make sure that there's scrutiny over all of the counting, and then that way the country can be reunited.
That would be acceptable, but our Constitution has certain
Doesn't
ways
allow it?
Huh?
It doesn't allow it?
No.
There's no allowance for that in our Constitution.
Our Constitution doesn't allow for,
and
they have up to a certain time, and that deadline was Wednesday.
Let me ask you this, Greg. If it's been undeniably proven that
I'm not going to say
method,
I'm not going to say undeniably. Let's say there's been debate, and there are people who are on both sides are saying the opposite thing. So I don't want to get into this bit of saying
even the people. I'm just talking about just the machines now, the Dominion machines. Even the people that made those admitted that they were designed to create the outcome that you want by the people in control of them. That means that machine is untrustable in a truly fair election. In my opinion, if we did have a way to do a revote, the only way would be each person verified by identification being legitimately qualified to vote in this country write on a piece of paper who they want to vote for, and that vote gets counted and tallied the minute they hand it in. It doesn't go into a box, get transported to a voting center, to some tabulation building where people have to watch who counts what. I go into that building, I write my name on the paper, I write who I vote for on the paper, I show my ID and say, I'm an legal American citizen, I have the right to vote, this is who I'm voting for, and it gets tallied right then, that moment. None of this BS of transporting ballots all over the place and all that kind of stuff.
Let me just say this, so Mel, even with the comments just now, the comments you made at the beginning of that section there about Dominion admitting some stuff or whatever, we're seeing in the chat that, someone's saying that as BS, you're lying. And I don't want to get into that level of discussion because there are people who are saying this and there are people who are saying that. That's a contested topic.
Yeah.
But the bit that's not contested is
the other part that why there will be division is because people in power, and I don't care which side of the fence they're on, have made themselves more powerful and more rich off of our backs for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
The other part
there's a general disdain for politicians in general, in other words.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
The other part of the problem is that as long as a group of the politicians believe that a communist, socialist type run country is the best way to go, there will always be divide in this country because this country was founded on people having freedoms and being free to act and being free to move about and being free to eat when they want to eat, what they want to eat, wear what they want to wear. In a socialist, I knew a gal once that said, she says, well, I don't think communism's so bad. And I said, do you have any idea where communism come from? She said, no, not really. I said, how about a commune? I'll break it down really simple. Communism is, in communes, they have communism. They have one grand poopah that tells everybody what they're going to wear, when they're going to eat, where they're going to work, when they're going to sleep. Is that how you want to live?
Yeah.
Let's
pause, Mel. I don't want to get into the discussion about political views. What I was wanting to stay with is how could it be reunited? And, certainly I've said my little piece on that. Let me add one other thing. Reading what Trevor Fuss is saying, they need an AEC. For those Americans watching Australian Electoral Commission. Yeah. This is a federally appointed body which is responsible for the federal elections. They run, they administer, they set common guidelines across all states.
Lloyd and I were talking about that the other day. It's like, it shouldn't be, the states can have control of where the location is that you're going to go vote. What building it's in, whatever.
Their own governors, their own elected,
But for federal elections, it should be federally controlled. I agree with that.
Yeah.
And
but when it comes to federal elections,
Mr. Miller.
But let me go one step further about the AEC, and that is, how do we actually do it in Australia? There's a couple of secrets, I think, to the way we do it. Number one, it's compulsory voting. And the reason why that's good and the reason why it fixes a lot of problems is there's no arguments about fake ballots that have been ballot harvested or whatever, because every person's got to turn up and be marked off the roll. If they don't actually want to vote, it's not compulsory to vote, but they turn up
at the polls.
Yep.
Right? So that's the first part. The second part, if it's compulsory election in Australia, then ballots go out and they can be returned in the mail. Yes, we do allow mail-in ballots. It is valid and legitimate, but we've got this federal body that's looking at the electoral roll, and they're cross-referencing against other data to make sure that the electoral roll is valid. So people who die, they get removed.
Yeah, and there's so much of that goes on here. You know, which is why they wanted. I mean, if you look back at the beginning, a year and a half ago, Hillary said, "Joe, don't concede no matter what." Like she already knew there was something in the wind that was going to take place.
Yeah.
And
but let me go on to share the last little piece of our system that I think is really, really cool. The Australian Electoral Commission, they run the elections, as I mentioned before, and the way that they do the counting is really simple. They don't have counting machines. They have the electoral staff who are physically administering the election as soon as the polls close, physically going and counting at that location, not transferring it somewhere else, counting it at that location. And if you're doing a presidential election, hypothetically, putting it into two boxes, you just go and take all of the ballots that were physically there and put them into two boxes, right? And having people watching which ones are going into which pile, that happens. So by doing it that way, each individual polling station in Australia, it's simple.
sure,
The only thing that comes out of that, the only thing that then comes out of that is the final number, if you like, from that polling station, which is validated and certified by our local people, and everything's happy. The only exception then is the postal votes, which get mailed into a central single, not statewide or whatever. It's a AEC federal single address, and from there they get counted, and they've got people watching those as well. They've got people
But do
validating.
the people that are assigned to watch and make sure everything stays legit, are they ever barred and banned from the
No.
location?
No, they're not. And the reason why that works over here is because we've got the single federal body above the top of it, making sure that it's above board.
Yeah, see, that
Right, I
didn't
think-
happen here. There was, many cases where the people that were supposed to be watching weren't allowed to be present while it was going on.
And
I know.
this has
And
been my argument. I'm just going to say this real quick. My argument has been since the election, we've had election problems on both sides. Both sides have complained. Both sides have said, both sides have said there's irregularities going all the way back to 2000,
Yeah,
and we've got a system, not the hardware, but it's a whole systematic problem for both sides. And I don't think anybody,
I'm about done with that.
yeah, I want to answer one question to that, and but I think both sides would agree we have to have a way of fixing this. But as long as we're so passionate, one side or the other, and we don't sit down and talk in a calm way and listen to the other, we'll never be able to fix the problems we do have. Now, I want to say something that Mr. Miller said in the very beginning. Let me go back and see if I can find it, because I have a kind of a.
I can I, Lloyd,
Yeah.
my show.
Okay.
My show. 1 minute, Mike. I think you would agree that I'm saying let's not get into the individual people and the individual politics. I said at the outset that
the system
what we
is
hang
broken.
on, my
Yeah.
show. 1 minute. What we can agree on is that there is not consensus. There is not agreement, right? That everyone can agree on.
Yeah, that is absolutely true.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and if we can agree that there is not agreement, I don't want to get into the blaming of one side or another. I don't want to get into You know, your earlier comment about Trump, that's not what I'm here for. But equally, I'm making sure that there are not inappropriate comments about other people.
Yeah.
Right? I'm trying to say, let's keep it right down the middle. We can have a discussion logically without rubbishing other people.
Yeah.
And when you're saying you're just repeating Trump lies, we're not doing that. What we are saying is that there is disagreement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay?
That's been my argument from the beginning of this, is not so much who won, who lost. To me personally, yeah, it matters, but that's my personal view. But that's not the problem I see. The problem I see is with the system in which we're using. I don't mean the software system. I don't mean the hardware system. I mean the overall voting system. The
That's
hierarchy,
what I'm talking
whatever
about.
you want to call it.
Yeah.
The
whatever term you
method,
want
the
to use.
method. Yeah.
Our method is not functioning and hasn't been functioning for over 20 years now. And it's really, to me, as an American, as a veteran who served, I'm frustrated. Everybody has a right to their opinion on who they think is right and who they think is wrong. Now, I have rights.
But let's not rubbish the
Again,
other side.
I have
That's
rights
wrong.
also, but my rights stop at the end of my arm. That's as far as I can go with my rights. Those are my opinions. I know I can't take my opinion and hit you in the face with my opinion, because then that's assault, you know, in physical and mental or verbal assault. I just want to say one thing. One of the first things he started with, and this is something I can say. He says Trump's a complete nut job and his followers are believing everything he says like he is Jim Jones. Well, Mike, let me say one thing. I was at Jonestown to pick up those 930 bodies. I know a little about Jonestown. I know a little about what he was about. It was a multiracial, multifaceted utopia. I also voted for Donald Trump. I have no use for Jim Jones. When you picked up those bodies, rotting in the jungle like I did, then you can come talk to me about it. Other than that, let's not bring Jim Jones into this and compare it to Trump voters. Okay? That's all I'm going to say about Jim Jones.
I don't know who Jim Jones is, and I'm not going to discuss it now because it'll probably go in a very bad direction.
Just Google it, Greg, and read the story.
Yeah.
Jonestown Massacre.
Yeah, it's the Jonestown Massacre.
Yeah.
And I was there for the body retrievals.
Yeah.
That's when I knew I was old, because I showed up on the History Channel.
But the thing that Mike things that
It's where
some
the
of the
drink
things
the-
that Mike's
drink the
were
Kool-Aid
saying.
came from.
Yeah, that's yep.
That's exactly the term.
That's where the phrase came from. Don't drink the Kool-Aid.
Yep.
You know
Mike,
what though?
don't-
I'm just reading every court throughout those claims. Yeah, he's the first one who went and took him to court. But to be fair, is it true that when Trump was elected, that there were Democrats that were saying that the process was rigged as well?
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And I don't. Right.
Yes,
So
there was.
if
Yeah,
if
yeah,
if there is
absolutely.
agreement on both sides that people don't have trust in the system, that's the bit that I want to get at. That's the bit that I think we need to have a look at. And I'm twice as loud as Mel and Lloyd. Oh.
Well, that's because I'm talking really soft and quiet. I'm not doing my normal thing because I'm a guest.
And I'm trying not to get too loud and passionate. The Jim Jones comment is.
Yeah,
That's,
that was out of line. And
That's
the thing
that's a
with
nightmare
Trump-
I've lived with for 40 years or more.
the Democrats
right.
were calling for his impeachment
Over 40.
the moment he started his campaign, before he was ever elected, before anybody knew if he would actually win. They were talking about impeaching him. That's how divisive it is. And when you use that kind of rhetoric, It's just like the remote ID thing. I made the statement the other night on my show that right at this moment, remote ID is a unicorn. The devices don't exist. The technology doesn't exist. They're going to make it. It's been called for, but at this moment, all it is words on paper.
So let's
You
wrap
know,
up.
so
Let's wrap up the
it's-
politics, and we'll go to remote ID. I just want to finish by saying this: we're seeing heated debate back and forth.
Right.
I'd really love it if people can agree on things we can agree on. Remember, I said at the beginning of this discussion, the word
Sean.
consensus. The word consensus in Australia is something that I think was first used by a guy called Bob Hawke. He was a former Australian Prime Minister. He was a left-wing Prime Minister. I look back now and I see some of those people, and I say, you know what? He was a leader that, regardless of left-wing or right-wing politician, I think he was one of the better ones. Bob Hawke, Paul Keating, John Howard, I put them all into that category. And our current leaders, I think, some of them are a little bit more hotly debated. Tony Abbott, I put him in the good leader category, but some people hotly debate that. And certainly our current Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, I'll have to kind of look back and make my comment in the future. But the point is, there are people on both sides who you look back and you say to them, yeah, they were good, yeah, they were bad, or whatever, and both sides will agree on it. Trump is a contentious one. I don't think we can ever change that. The fact that this election has happened, I don't think we can ever change that. But what needs to change is to get rid of the division, and the way that's going to happen is fixing the system over there.
That's going to be a step. The system is broken. That's absolutely for sure.
Yeah.
And it's been broken for a long time. I mean, the hanging chads in Florida, I think, is what really started the whole voting issue.
I mean, that's part of the modern American lexicon now. Hanging
Yeah.
chads. We're not talking
exactly.
about the porn star by the name of Chad Longsworth.
So were the hanging chads well hung? Anyway, moving right
I
along.
want to know how Lloyd knew that guy's name right off the top of his head. You know, it's
I just
scary.
made it up.
Like what do him and Judy
Sound
watch
like a good
over there,
porn
you
star
know?
name. Chad Longsworth. It sounds like a great porn star name. Mr. Hanging Chad.
Remote ID. Let's get back to remote ID. And I'm just watching Chris Hope saying, I saw Greg walk off this bridge a couple of years ago. I'm trying to understand that.
I don't recall. I'm not sure what he's talking about there
Yeah.
either. Hello, Chris. Yeah, remote
anyway.
ID is coming, and it's going to be interesting once it's implemented. The interesting thing that a lot of people are missing is that the implementation are complete around 2023, roughly late 2023, is about the same time there's supposed to be another FAA Reauthorization Act around that same time. So it's everybody. First of all, I'd like to get one thing clear. A lot of people blame the FAA for all of this, and it's not the FAA. They are a pawn.
It's Amazon's fault.
No, it's not even Amazon's fault.
It's the idiots.
So I'm not
that
even going to
do
blame them.
stupid stuff.
The
It's their
people,
fault.
the people that are most concerned about the airspace over this country is the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security. Those two bodies are the ones that are saying, we would really like to know who's in our airspace. And that's why all this remote ID stuff, because drones, whether we want to face it or not, be them small or large, can be used to cause problems if they want to.
Well, yeah. I mean, they've already used they've already used a Phantom 4 over in the Middle East to assassinate somebody. You know.
Yeah.
So it's very smart for them to say, hey, we need to keep an eye on these things, because let's say some silly old fool that's a political hack of one side or the other and wants to do something bad. What better way than to hire Greg to set up a Raspberry Pi with a hack in it so we can pretend it's, I don't know, Mike Miller, and then we can attack the White House.
Careful now.
Yeah.
That was in fun, Mike.
Yeah, this is all you need. Oh,
That's
Yep.
it right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
one Raspberry Pi, and this is the big problem with
Nick.
remote ID. And I've said it since day one. Remote
Hey,
ID
Nick.
is the fact that I can pretend to be anyone I want to be, and
Yep.
until it's mandated at a regulatory perspective that you're going to have a secure way of making sure that things are legit, that's
And
going to
even
be a
then,
problem.
it's how is it gonna possibly be secure?
It can
You
be.
know?
It can be. It can be. And I'll tell you how in just one moment, but I'll just say, Mike, I didn't tell Nightbot to time you out, but when you do too many smiley faces, he gets unhappy because some time ago, YouTube had something where there was a channel that had too many emojis, and all of a sudden the system was banning the channel and doing all sorts of bad stuff. So anyway.
And Greg,
let me answer the question, though.
You of all people should know that the security is only as good as the last guy that tried to hack it, because the next guy might break it.
Not necessarily, and I'll tell you how and why. If you have a look at, let's say, a bank website, bank website uses digital certificates to make sure that someone in the middle can't alter or view the data that's going back and forth. That's using digital certificates. If you've got digital certificates where the root certificate authority is managed by, let's say, your local country's government, and they digitally sign and issue certificates to go on to your remote ID on your drone, problem solved. It's the same technology that's used to secure a bank.
Yeah, because if a bank didn't have that kind of security, I would be routing all the money out of Greg's account into my account, and I'd be able to do it right here from my little desktop.
Oh, no, because Greg could catch your ass and he'd take yours and mine to make up for it.
Yeah, that's probably true, but I mean, seriously, that's one of those things that, bank security is electronic security is unbelievably tight. And if there's been a bank hacked and that information or money has been rerouted, probably the only time I've ever heard about it was, and there's a good reason why you don't want a Swiss bank account, because they get hacked all the time in the Mission Impossible version 27 or whatever number they're up to now, and all those spoof shows. They're always hacking the money from the bad guys and giving it to the good people. So if they can do it on the movies, they can do it in real life, I'm sure.
Speaking of hacking, just to share with you this little beastie here. This is something to go with the Raspberry Pi.
Oh, what's that?
And it's an NFC board for hacking smart cards. Yes, I play with all sorts of things.
You're just kind of
See, I
scary
told you.
sometimes,
I
Greg.
told you, Lloyd.
I know, he is. He's some of the things I know.
Anyways,
All's well and good, Mike. We're good.
Yeah, it's all good, Mike. No
'Cause,
problem.
If we didn't have passion about, if we didn't believe in something strong enough, we need to have passion in what we believe. We also, my thing is I always believe that you should listen to the other side. You don't have to agree with them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Don't say what they. I'll give you an example. Some of you guys may know, and some of you may not know, but I'm an ordained minister, and I had a gentleman come up to me one time.
You're an ordained minister who has a button that you can press that does what?
Yeah, that.
Yeah.
But still,
How can you, how do you reconcile those two parts of your life?
it's confusing. But anyways, let me get to the story.
He'd much rather
And
part than marry somebody, I promise you.
yeah, really. No, this gentleman came to me one time and he says, "I know the history of my faith, and I know this is why we're doing it right." And I sat down and said, "Really?" And I made one simple sentence statement that said, "No." It wasn't that I disproved it. I just gave him, "Oh, well, that's too bad," because he gave him the because, a simple, short statement. And I suddenly realized and this guy was, his minister had told him this words, and he was repeating what his minister had said. And I just said, "Okay, well, that's too bad because you're missing out on all this." And it shook his face so bad. And I thought, his faith was just shaking. Like, oh my God, I hadn't thought about it that way. Just a simple blanket answer that, I'd given to a lot of people about the same situation I hadn't thought about. But this man was shaken so bad that, as an ordained minister, I felt that I probably shook his faith too deeply. And that's never my intention. And from that point on, that's why I go with the, treat each other better than you would treat yourselves when I sign off on my show, or on my vlogs, is because I realize that sometimes in our exuberance to put across a message, we may be shaking somebody that is already a little, maybe they're just new at it or just iffy, or maybe this is their first year in politics or religion or whatever it is. Sometimes you can shake them so bad that you've just destroyed them. And
Can I just say, we've got two other ministers there?
I see one. I didn't realize Captain Murray's a minister.
oh, I didn't either. Who's the other one?
Joe, so am I, Lloyd.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot more of us preachers out there. And I'm not going to, I'm going to tell you, I'm not one of those
Make
preachers
sure you
that
tell
thinks
all of your friends to keep watching Oz by Drone so that they too can have a religious experience.
Yeah. And I'm not going to tell you I'm one of those that thinks he can walk on water, okay? Cost you $15 on the internet, yeah. Joe's a Baptist preacher.
Okay.
And I was a Pentecostal preacher for years. But, I still like Baptist. That's an inside joke.
I get it. But, it's funny. You still like Baptists. I wish, back to our earlier topic, that Republicans can say they still like Democrats. Democrats can say they still like Republicans. As a whole, I wish the country over there can come together and say, hey, let's improve it so that we can all agree on the outcome of the next election. That's kind of what I think would be good.
Yeah, and that's the way it should be. That's if we were a better, our passions run deep here. We have very strong opinions. We're very independent people. And
So how do you fix that though, Greg? I mean, because a lot of people
I think it's a missed opportunity this time around. I think it's a missed opportunity. If there was a way that it could have been done, it should have been done in the way it was handled.
But I mean, let's use a current example that's being dealt with right this minute, that's outside the election process. They keep doing these Corona stimulus things. They gave each tax registered American citizen a check for $600. They gave Iran $15 billion. They gave all those other countries billions and billions of dollars to equal up to a, $2.5 trillion bill or whatever it was they just did. They gave all this money to all these other people Some of them that don't like us at all, they gave them money, and they gave the American citizens $600. So when they do that kind of thing, how are people like me supposed to? I mean, I would rather them keep the 600 and not send any money across the pond. They sent money. They sent money to a country to enforce its borders, but they want to open ours. They don't want voter ID, but they want. And I'm referring mostly to the Democrats here. They don't want voter ID. They don't want people to have to prove that they're a citizen, have a legal right to vote in this country, but they're going to want everyone to have a COVID card so that you can't even ride a city bus unless you didn't get your COVID shot. You know what I mean? I mean, seriously, how in the world can I, because I honestly don't see a path where I could ever agree with stuff like that. You know, I just don't. I don't see a path where I think it's okay to give all these other countries all the money that we don't even have. I mean, we're going deeper in debt to give money to people that don't like us. How is that logical?
Well, and this is our first glimmer of understanding, Mel. Politicians are not logical. If we can all accept that, we'll probably, as not politicians, but as citizens, we can say, hey, boy, ain't that the truth. Ain't none of them make any sense.
Anyway, gents, ladies, and anyone else who's watching, we've
and I do not belong. I'm not a pastorina minister, just in case anybody wants to know.
Yeah. Anyway, ladies and gents, we've reached the end of an hour and a little bit. We went over. Right now, we've got another show, which is Ready, Set, Drone. So I'm going to encourage you to go over there and say you came from Oz by Drone. E0, is this the Oz by Drone or Oz by Politics? Yeah, it's the month of January. I'm allowed to do it in January. I'm just talking about whatever's on my mind.
So what are you at home? Are you somewhere on vacation? Are you traveling? What are you doing?
He's at home.
Greg?
I'm at home.
Oh, okay.
He just doesn't put the finesse into it.
Yeah, no more just chilling out, just relaxing. But to answer your question, we've got some corona stuff coming back and increasing in restrictions again. So we can't travel outside of New South Wales again. So he's by a bridge down by the river, says Joe. Yeah.
That sounds like a country song.
Yeah. Down by the riverside. Oh.
Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the show. Next week, and in fact for the entire month of January, we're going to continue to do it this format, just StreamYards. We're going to say hello. Next week, hopefully some more people will come on. Otherwise, it's three mates who are very opinionated, but I want to hear your opinions on the screen, not just in the chat. But we're always going to be respectful of each other. Come on the screen. It's not always going to be as political as today. We'll try and avoid that.
Today was definitely
it's current. It's topical.
This last week
current
has been
events.
Something. To be honest, I thought I'd never see in my lifetime, and it's just something I thought I'd never see. So it's and everybody on both sides are passionate about what they think is right, what they think is wrong, and but the one thing is we can all, we're like a family. We may not always agree. God knows my brother and I don't agree. He votes completely opposite of me, and for the silliest reasons I ever heard, but push come to shove, we're still blood. We're still brothers, And that's the way this drone community
sit down and
is.
break bread together. That's right.
Yeah, that's what we do here.
Anyway, ladies, gentlemen, and everyone else, it's time to say goodbye. Lloyd, if you can throw me full screen and I'll throw the outro slide on.
There you go.
Thank you for watching. Thanks for being part of the Oz by Drone community. If anyone does want to fly next week live, you're also welcome to do that, and we'll let you fly live. We're just having a lot of fun for this month. please do go and check out Ready Set Drone. Tell them that Oz by Drone sent you. Anyway, that's all. Bye bye for now.